Hey, my name is Ben Ibbotson and I am a 2D animator. Today I want to show you how I created this walk cycle using RubberHose in After Effects. So let's jump in and have a look. So we're here inside of After Effects and I've already gone about the hassle of making the character all up. It's just using basic shape layers. So I've got my body, I'll just solo that so I can quickly show you. And that's just two ellipses, just the top one that's white and the bottom one that's purple, just so a trim's path on it, so that's my body. Then I've got my head, I've got my front leg here, the front arm of these layers, and then I'll just duplicate my layers up. And these are made with RubberHose. RubberHose is an amazing plugin that you can create really cool walk cycles in. It's an external plugin, so it's not built into After Effects, so you have to buy it, but it's only $45 from Battleaxe. I'll put a link in the description below. The amazing thing about RubberHose is that it's an IK system, which is inverse kinematics. So basically wherever I move the hand, the rest of the arm will bend with it. So it's really easy for when you just want to animate. And you can do loads of different styles within this. But I've just gone for a basic style that you can then hopefully elaborate on once you've got the basics. Because I'd always say with walk cycles, you want to start basic and then build up and build up and build up. I'll quickly just show you the leg. So what I've done with the leg, the hip and the ankle, the hip is parented to the body. So wherever I move the body, the top of the leg moves, and so does the shoulder. And then I've parented the ankle to the foot. So if I grab the front foot, wherever I move the front foot, the leg will bend. So I don't need to see all these layers. So what I've already done, I've pressed this little shy guy here, and then I'm going to select them all, just lock them. And then if I press the bigger shy guy up here, it hides everything I don't need. Because all I really need to animate on is these 6 layers here. When you start out creating walk cycles for the first few times, I use reference all the time. So if you just Google walk cycle reference, and you can see the different phases of the contacts and the ups and the downs that you can use to when you're first starting, because references are key for this. It's all about the type of walk you want to create. There's YouTube videos of like walking references as well that you can watch to try and really give an individual style to your walk. So when you start about animating a walk cycle, what you want to do, you want to basically build it, you want to block it in. You want to start with the main movements, and then you can add the easing and timing after that. So what I start with every walk cycle is I start with the body. So the body naturally bounces up and down as you walk. My walk cycle today is just going to be a second. So at the beginning and the end you want it to be the same, and then you take 2 steps every second. So I know that on 0 frames, 12 frames and 24 frames, because I'm working at 24 frames per second, I know that that's when I want the position of the body to be down. So I can just knock it down a little bit so the legs are bent. And then on the in-betweens, so at 6 add a keyframe, and at 18 frames add another keyframe. This is when I want the body to step up. So I'm just going to knock it up 2. And then what I'm going to do now, just so I don't have to like keep playing back 10 seconds of preview, because it's going to be a looped sequence, all I need to do is just play back 1 second and loop it. So on your keyboard, if you press B at the beginning, that'll start where you want your playback loop to start, just for your preview. So obviously you want that at the beginning, and then N on your keyboard will end your loop. But it always does it like 1 frame after the one you're on. So if I do it on 1, the loop will finish on 1 second and 1 frame. So I just want to just move it in 1. So now what we'll see is the body will slightly bounce up and down. Got its boogie on. So what we want to do, we want to set the, like I say, we want to set the key poses. So I'm going to focus on the legs first, just because the legs for me just seem to be a little bit more visually easy to sort out than the arms. The arms are quite easy to match once you've got the legs looking right. So I'm just pressing P on my keyboard to open up my position keyframes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to place this foot, the back foot back, and the front foot forward. So I know that my the middle of my composition is exactly, my composition is 600 pixels wide, so I know the middle is 300. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to make each step 200 pixels deep, So I know the front foot will be on 200 and the back foot will be on 400. I'm just going to add keyframes on there. And then what I'm going to do at 12 frames, I'm just going to flip them again. So I'm just going to add a keyframe on 12, keyframe on a second. And then where this says 200, and I want that foot to go backwards. Sorry, the front foot to go backwards. Forward, sorry, so 400 there is forwards, 200 on the back keyframe. So essentially now, it'll look a little bit like he's moonwalking. Doon, doon, doo, 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 doon. Cool, so we're getting the basics there. We're slowly going to build this up. Obviously, when you walk, you don't keep your feet on the floor. When you bring your foot forward, so if I focus on this leg at the minute, which is the front foot, when it comes forward in time, obviously you raise your foot off the floor. But we're not going to add any extra keyframes in because we want to keep things quite simple. The fewer keyframes really, the better. So what I'm going to do on this keyframe, I'm just going to right click on it, go to keyframe interpolation, and this is where you can basically change the speed and the direction, so this spatial, I don't know how to actually say it, but this is where you can bend the path of motion. So I've basically activated the Bezier keyframe. I'll do that again in case you missed it. So keyframe interpolation, and I've selected Bezier handles. Linear keeps it in a straight line. Bezier means you can control it, and then these two kind of just do automatic things. But I prefer Bezier because you can actually move it yourself. So what that's done here is just put this little handle here, which is quite hard to see. But what I can do now is if I click on that and drag it up, I'm not changing my keyframes, but I'm changing the motion path between my keyframes. So now, whereas before it slid along the floor, now it lifts up, like so. And then what I can do, I can show you on the back foot again. So on this back keyframe, it's already got a handle here, look. So if I just select these, I'll make them linear, just so we can go from scratch. Keyframe interpolation, linear. So now that handle's gone. So I'll probably do it on this end one. If I right click on that, keyframe interpolation, go from linear to Bezier, press OK, and this little handle comes back. So again, now look, you can see it's moving on the floor. But if I grab this handle and lift it up, the foot begins to rise. And again, it's not moving any time in, it's not adding extra keyframes. All you're doing is changing the path of motion. So if I zoom out a little bit now, and then press start again, see now I've got a little, I mean obviously it's very rugged, it's very linear, very robotic, but we're getting the step to happen. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to try and add a little bit of like nice easing to this up and down motion of the body, because we're not robots, we don't move in the exact speed every time. There's a bit of easing, a bit of slowing up and down, things like that. So I'm going to press ease them, so FN, F9 because I'm on a Mac. And all that's done at the minute is just ease my keyframes. So I'm going to separate my dimensions firstly, because all I need to change is my X and is my Y position, because I'm not moving the body forward and backwards like this. All I'm going to do is just move it up and down. So I can remove my X keyframe, put that back at 300 because I know that's where my middle of my comp is. I'm going to ease these keyframes again, just because it gives us a little bit more control of what we can do to them. So I'm going to click on my graph editor here, click on my Y position, and currently you can't see anything. They are there, they're just out of the preview range I have. So you've got a few little buttons down here. So if you click on this one, there we go. So that's our little waveform. And this is our graph editor. So the way you walk, you generally step quite heavy, but then you come up quite light. So the top of your walking motion is always a little bit smoother than the bottom. So this is the top of my step. So all I'm going to do on both of these is I'm just going to extend this out a little bit, just to make it feel a little bit more smoother. And then on all of these ones, which is the bottom, so this is when the step happens, I'm going to make these shorter because I don't want to be on the bottom of my step for too long. And in here, this is where your animations like completely come alive. You can change so much, give so much personality to things in the keyframe editor. So now you can already see it's got a slight little, feels like it's more marching now, which is quite nice. So we'll leave that for now. The other thing I want to do is obviously when your foot never stays level. So let me just grab this back foot for example. It's staying like parallel to the floor at all times. If I put like a ruler in here to show you my floor, it's always staying level with the floor, which again, that's not how we walk. Our ankles are on pivot joints. We rotate our ankles as we walk. So what I'm going to do now is just add a slight rotation to my front foot. So as it leaves, I'm going to just go maybe 2 frames, and I'm going to rotate the ankle down as if it's the toes are pointing on the floor. So as you're leaving, you're pushing up on your feet, and then keep it going. So then obviously when I'm back and the foot's on the floor, I want it back to be 0, because that's when the foot's landed. But again, if you look at this, you never really land on the floor with toe first. So I'm going to come back just a couple of keyframes and rotate it the other way, just so the heel impacts on the floor first. So you see the back foot, which is this one, as I play now. So it just gives that little bit of life that it's just pushing off and landing on the heel. So if you look at the 2 feet, to me the difference is crazy how much more energy. It's only like a few little keyframes, and they just add this little bit of extra detail. And the amazing thing, because we're working in very symmetrical character here, I can just copy those rotation keyframes and stick them straight onto the back foot on the other half of the walk. So now the feet should both pick up really nicely. It just gives you that little bit of push off and a little bit of landing, which is really nice. So obviously, again, let's move on to the arms now, because I'm quite happy with those legs. I don't really do that much more to the legs when I do my walk cycles. So I'll now just jump quickly onto the legs, onto the arms. Once we've done the arms, we can then do a little bit of secondary animation. So got my arms open, press P to open up my position keyframes. So let's do front arm first. So naturally when you walk, you alternate which arm and leg goes forward and backwards. So if your left arm goes forward, it'll be your left leg that goes forward. That's how you balance when you walk. So I'm going to put a keyframe in here so I can see that my front leg is backwards. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to move my arm so it's at the forward of his swing here. And then, in fact, I'll get my my back foot up, because that is what I'm going to be mimicking. So the back foot is back, so now I want to bring my front arm back. So I'm just going to tab in with some keyframes, and then I can move him. And again, you can do these completely however bespokely you want, and that's where you get your character from. That's where you get the personality from, just by changing this. So you can see I've already got my linear motion in here, but what it's done, it's already put me some Bezier handles in. And when you move on your body, when you move anything organically, nothing ever moves in a straight line. So you never want to keep this straight. You always want to just pull them down and add a bit of a curve to things, because it just adds so much more believable movement. And then I'm going to go to the end of my keyframe, and I'm just going to put it back in the same position it was to begin with, because I want this to loop. So I'm just going to copy and paste. And it's tried to like do an auto Bezier there, so all I'm going to do is grab it. But what I'll find is if I grab this, it's going to move all of my motion path, which doesn't seem to work. It seems to break it, so I'm going to undo that. So if you're on a Mac and you press Option and grab this little handle, it kind of splits the layers, so you can grab them individually and move the motion paths each. So I press Option and move this, and it just means I can make my path a lot smoother instead of altering both sides. So I'll press play and we'll see the front hand. Cool, so I reckon I'm going to move his hand just a little bit further back and up a bit, so we just get a bit more curve to things. And just play around with these, all these little mini tweaks. And again, so the motion path's nice and curvy, but the timing of everything is very linear. Like, it looks quite robotic again now. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to ease my keyframes, so FN, F9 to ease them. And I'm just going to, if I press Option and double click them, it comes with my velocity. And this is where you basically change how fast the object moves in and out of your keyframes. So I'm going to put something fairly like 75-ish, so it's fairly slow. So So there you go, it feels a lot more like he's got that energy to march now. That as it swings, it gains momentum and then it slows down when it gets to the other side. So all I'm going to do is copy these keyframes and paste them onto my back arm. But I want them to be a swing out of sync. So I'm going to move them all along to here. I'm going to copy and paste that keyframe on the end. So now we'll get our arms swinging. Cool. So a few more little things I want to do. Your body. So when you're walking up and down, your body doesn't stay vertical all the time. You don't walk with a straight back. Nobody's posture is perfect. And as well, to like add a little bit more character to stuff, we're going to add this little bit of secondary motion. So I've opened my rotation tab and I'm just going to add a little keyframe. And if I press U on my keyboard, it opens up all of my active keys. So as I move along and our character hits the top of his stride, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to rock him back a little bit. So I'm probably doing minus 2. So it's not much, but subtlety here really sells it. So then when he's on his down step, I want him to rock forward. So I'm going to rock him forward a little bit further, because when you walk and your body impacts, your weight is going forwards. So I'm going to put 4, maybe I'll go 6. 6 degrees. And then I'm just going to copy and paste 6 in here. And then I'm just going to copy and paste them again. So this is just so it completes our loop. I'm going to just ease them so they look nice. So there you go. It's already, like, you can already see that's added like a little attitude to his mouth. He's starting to feel like he's a bit stompy now, which is really, really what I want to go for. But again, to me now, the bottom half is looking really nice, but the head feels a little bit static still. So what I've done, I've put the anchor point right at the bottom of the head and I've parented the head to the body. So wherever, obviously, the body moves, the head follows. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the same rotation of the body and paste it onto the rotation of the head. So we'll see that as the head, as the body steps down, the head rocks forward. And what I'm going to do slightly, I'm just going to offset these keyframes just to add a little bit of delay to the animation. So I'm just going to knock them forward 2 frames and move my loop along. And I'm going to move the same amount of keyframes on the rotation of the body. Let's move this along a little bit. So this is going to break my loop, but I'll show you how to fix that in a second. So as the body moves, the head just feels like it's lagging a little bit. The main mass is your body, and then it's pulling the head with it, so it should happen slightly after. But like I say, the whole animation is slightly broken now because it's not looping correctly. So I'm going to add a little very simple expression that you don't need to type out. I can never remember it, so I always use the shortcuts to find it. But I want to make all of my keyframes loop. So if you press U on your keyboard, it brings up all of your active keyframes. So what I'm going to do to add an expression, if you press Option or Alt on your keyboard and click on your stopwatch, it turns these numbers red and it opens up your expression window. And here, this is where you can start typing in your expressions, and by all means learn expressions. They are amazing. I can never remember most expressions off the top of my head, so I go through this little menu. So if you click on the arrow, this basically brings up all the stuff you can put an expression on. So if you go into the Property tab and then you go Loop Out, and all this basically means is that I'm telling the computer to loop my keyframes, which is why you want the same keyframe at the beginning and the end. So if I press play, I'll copy and paste it into everything first. So just copy Command C and then Option click and then Command V, Option click, Command V, and that's all I'm doing on the rest of these. Scroll down a bit. So now I'll press play and most things will loop, but there'll be a few things that are broken, but I'll explain why. You're like, oh no, what's happened to the feet? They've gone a bit pony. and I'll show you why now. So basically this is looping everything I've created. And most things start and end on the same, apart from the rotation of the ankles, because I only want it to rotate when you step. And then when it's flat, I'm like, oh, it just stays flat the whole time. But what that's doing, because there's not another keyframe, is basically copying and pasting all of these keyframes exactly again. So to fix that, all I want to do is just add another keyframe at 0. So then now that just stays flat while he walks. And then again on the bottom foot, just add a keyframe at the beginning. So now when I press play, got a little character marching. That back arm looks a bit broken, so let's have a quick look at that. So that is working. Why is it looking a bit? So I'm assuming there's something to do with my interpolation over here. Just play it softly. I think I just need to ease these keyframes again. Yeah, I think the time's gone a bit off. 75, 75. Sometimes when you copy and paste, then add certain things in, it just messes things up. So it's always good to go back. There we go. Still looks a little bit odd, that, doesn't it? Oh, I know why. It's because I've got a keyframe before. So this is looping all of my keyframes, like I've said in the expression. But it's not just looping the keyframes I can see, it's looping the keyframes I can't see. So because I copy and pasted my keyframe before, I've got a little arrow here so I can click back, delete that keyframe. So now it actually does start where it was before. So now that should have fixed it. There we go. So got a little marching character. And then all I've done is just chuck this guy into just a field. I've dropped him down here just to add a shadow, so that's my shadow layer. And I've added a little layer style on him, just a little inner shadow there, just to add a bit of light. Just give him a little feel of dimension. And then all I've done here again is just put a few of my fader effects on. So curves just to add a bit of light to him. Turbulent displacement just to add a bit of like irregularity because it's a vector essentially image. Everything's a bit too smooth, so I want to make it just feel a bit rough. Posterize time, I've just shortened it down to 12 frames. And I'll just put a bit of noise on top just to again give you that little bit of imperfection. Amazing, thanks for watching guys. I hope you got something from this tutorial today. I'd love to see the kind of stuff that you're up to, and hopefully if you could send me some stuff from the walk cycles that you're making, I'd love to see them. So just hit me an email, drop me a message, or drop me a comment in here, and I'd love to check out some of your stuff. Please hit the like and subscribe button below so you don't miss out on any future tutorials that are coming out. I hope you have a great week and see you soon.